As the maid slapped the girlfriend back, the whole dining room went silent. Iris Fallon didn't plan it. Her hand moved before her mind caught up. 1 second Kelly Josh's palm was cracking across Grandmother Soon-Hee's cheek, and the next second Iris's own hand was flying, landing hard on Kelly's face. The sound echoed off the marble floor of the Kugisaki estate outside Ashland, Kentucky. Toji Kugisaki stood frozen by the window. His coffee cup was still in his hand. Maybe he should have moved faster. Probably he should have stopped Kelly before her palm even touched his grandmother's skin. But still, he hadn't. He just stood there watching, like his legs forgot how to work. "You hit me." Kelly's voice cracked through the room. Her hand covered her cheek, eyes wide, more shocked than hurt. "The maid hit me?" Grandmother Soon-Hee didn't cry out. She didn't even flinch, not really. She just touched her own cheek slowly, like she was checking if it was real. Iris stepped in front of the old woman. Her chest rose and fell fast. She hadn't decided to do that either. Her feet just moved. "Don't you ever," Iris said, voice shaking, "put your hands on her again." Kelly looked at Toji. She looked at him like she expected him to fire Iris on the spot. Like it was obvious. Like the maid should already be walking to her car with a trash bag of her things. Toji set his coffee cup down. Slow. Careful. Like the sound of it touching the table might break something. "Kelly," he said. He hesitated. "What happened?" "What happened?" Kelly repeated, like the question insulted her. "Your grandmother insulted my family. She called my mother a liar in front of your business partners. I reacted. That's it. That's all that happened." Grandmother Soon-Hee finally spoke. Her English was slow but clear, each word placed like a stone. "I told the truth," she said. "Maybe truth is hard for some people to hear." Kelly's jaw tightened. Iris didn't move from her spot between them. Her hand still stung. She could feel it turning red, could feel the shape of Kelly's cheekbone still pressed into her palm like a memory. She hadn't hit anyone in her whole life. Not once. Not even her own sister growing up in Paducah, back when they used to fight over the last biscuit at breakfast. But this was different. This wasn't a biscuit. This was an 81-year-old woman getting slapped in her own dining room by a woman half her age. "Get out," Toji said. The room went quiet again. Even quieter than before. Kelly blinked. "Excuse me." "Not you," he said. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Iris. You need to leave the room. Now." Iris felt her stomach drop. Maybe this was it. Maybe 3 years of working in this house, 3 years of learning how Grandmother Soon-Hee liked her tea, 3 years of remembering which hallway lights flickered and which floorboards creaked at night, all of it was about to end because her hand moved faster than her thinking. She didn't argue. She turned and walked toward the kitchen, spine straight, even though her whole body wanted to shake. Behind her, she heard Kelly's voice rise again. "You're seriously letting her walk away?" "She hit me, Toji." "Me? Your girlfriend." "I heard you the first time," Toji said. His voice was flat. Careful. The kind of careful that made people in his world nervous, because it usually came right before something big happened. In the kitchen, Iris pressed her back against the cold refrigerator door and closed her eyes. Her hand was still trembling. She thought about her mother back in Elizabethtown, about the letter sitting unopened in her purse, the one from the hospital that she hadn't found the courage to read yet. She thought about the fact that she needed this job. Not wanted. Needed. Footsteps came down the hallway. Fast. Determined. It was Grandmother Soon-Hee. The old woman walked into the kitchen slower than usual, one hand pressed to the small of her back, but her eyes were sharp as ever. She looked at Iris for a long moment before speaking. "You should not have done that," she said. Iris lowered her head. "I know. I'm sorry, ma'am. I wasn't thinking. I did not say I was angry," Grandmother Soon-Hee interrupted. "I said you should not have done it. There is a difference." Iris looked up, confused. The old woman's mouth twitched, almost a smile, but not quite. "That girl. She has been waiting for a reason. Now you gave her one." "A reason for what?" Grandmother Soon-Hee didn't answer right away. She walked to the counter, picked up the kettle, and started filling it with water like nothing unusual had happened at all. Like her cheek hadn't been slapped 10 minutes ago in front of half the family's business associates.
You will find out, she said finally.
Maybe sooner than you think. Iris didn't understand what that meant.
Not yet.
But something about the way the old woman said it made the hair on her arms stand up. Back in the dining room, Kelly was pacing. Her heels clicked against the marble, sharp and fast, like a countdown.
I want her gone, Kelly said. Today. This afternoon.
I don't care what excuse she has.
Toji leaned against the table, arms crossed.
He was quiet for a long moment. He hesitated again, like the words were heavy in his mouth. She's worked for my family for 3 years, he said. She's never once raised her voice to anyone in this house.
Not once.
And now she's hitting people, Kelly snapped.
She hit you, Toji said.
After you hit my grandmother.
Kelly's face changed. Just for a second.
A flicker of something Toji almost missed.
Fear, maybe. Or maybe something colder. Calculating.
I already apologized for that, Kelly said, softer now.
It was a mistake.
I lost my temper. But Toji, think about what this looks like. Your maid attacked your girlfriend in front of Daniel Reese and the others. What are people going to say? Toji looked at her for a long time. Long enough that Kelly shifted, uncomfortable. What are people going to say, he repeated slowly, about the fact that you hit an 81-year-old woman? Have you thought about that part?
Kelly opened her mouth. Closed it again.
Silence stretched between them. Outside, a black car pulled into the long driveway. Nobody in the dining room noticed. Nobody except Grandmother Soon-Hee, watching from the kitchen window, the kettle still in her hand, eyes locked on the car like she'd been expecting it. She set the kettle down. Iris, she said quietly.
Go upstairs. Pack a small bag. Just in case.
Iris's heart jumped into her throat. Just in case of what, ma'am? The old woman didn't look away from the window. In case things happen faster than we planned.
We planned? Iris repeated. Ma'am, I don't understand. What's going on?
But Grandmother Soon-Hee was already moving toward the front hall, her steps quicker than they'd been all morning, quicker than an 81-year-old woman with a bad hip should be able to move. Iris stood alone in the kitchen, hands still trembling, heart pounding against her ribs. She looked down at her palm, the one that had struck Kelly's cheek without permission from her own brain. Maybe she'd just ruined everything. Or maybe, she thought, remembering the strange calm in the old woman's eyes, maybe she just walked into something much bigger than a slap in a dining room.
The front door opened.
Voices came from the hallway. Toji's voice, tight and low. Kelly's voice, suddenly higher, suddenly nervous in a way it hadn't been minutes ago.
And a third voice. A man's voice.
One Iris had never heard in this house before.
Toji Kugisaki, the stranger said. We need to talk. About Kelly.
Iris pressed herself against the kitchen doorway, listening, her pulse loud in her own ears. She could see slivers of the hallway through the gap in the door. A man in a gray coat stood near the entrance.
Tall. Calm.
Too calm for someone showing up unannounced at a Mafia boss's front door.
Who let you in? Toji asked.
Your gate guard, the man said. I told him I had something Kelly would want kept quiet. He believed me. Kelly's face had gone pale. Silas, what are you doing here? So the stranger had a name now.
Silas.
Iris filed it away, the same way she filed away everything in this house. I'm doing my job, Silas said. You hired me 3 months ago to dig into the Kugisaki finances.
Remember?
Or did you forget the part where you were supposed to pay me the second half?
The room went dead silent.
Toji turned slowly toward Kelly. What is he talking about? Nothing, Kelly said quickly. He's lying. I don't even know this man. Silas laughed, short and humorless.
That's cute. Real cute.
You want to try that again?
Because I have texts.
I have voicemails. I have 3 months of you asking me questions about your boyfriend's accounts that a girlfriend has no business asking. Iris's hand tightened on the doorframe. Grandmother Soon-Hee stood a few feet from Silas, arms folded, watching the whole thing unfold like she'd read the ending of this story a long time ago. "You knew," Toji said, looking at his grandmother.
Not a question. A realization.
"I suspected," she corrected. "There is a difference, grandson. Suspecting is not knowing. But I have been alive a long time. I know what a person looks like when they are only pretending to love someone." Kelly's eyes filled with something close to panic now.
Toji, listen to me.
"Whatever he's saying, it's not what it looks like. I would never." "You slapped my grandmother an hour ago," Toji said, voice quiet in a way that was somehow louder than shouting. "Then you demanded I fire the one person in this house who's never lied to me. And now a stranger is standing in my hallway telling me you hired him to go through my finances."
He hesitated, jaw tight. "Explain that to me." Slowly. Kelly's mouth opened. Nothing came out.
In the kitchen, Iris finally let out the breath she'd been holding. Maybe this was why Grandmother Soon-Hee had told her to pack a bag. Not because Iris was in danger of losing her job. Because something much bigger had already been moving underneath this house, quiet and patient, long before Kelly's hand ever touched an old woman's cheek. She thought back to small things. Kelly asking too many questions about the safe in Toji's study. Kelly showing up at odd hours when Toji wasn't home, walking through rooms she had no reason to be in. Kelly once asking Iris, almost too casually, where the family kept its important papers. Iris had brushed it off each time. Told herself it wasn't her business. Maybe she should have said something sooner.
Probably she should have.
But still, some part of her had wanted to believe Kelly was just curious. Not someone circling the house like a hawk waiting for the right moment.
The kitchen door creaked.
Iris jumped back, but it was only Desmond, the estate's groundskeeper, peeking in from the side hall with wide eyes.
"You hear all that?" he whispered.
"Every word," Iris whispered back. "Girl." Desmond shook his head slowly. "You slapped the wrong woman on the wrong day. Or maybe the right day. Depends how you look at it." Iris almost laughed, but her chest was too tight for it to come out right. "I don't even know what's happening anymore."
"Nobody does," Desmond said.
"Not even them, probably." Out in the hallway, the argument hadn't slowed down.
"I want proof," Toji said to Silas.
"Everything you have. Emails, texts, all of it. Today." "That's going to cost you," Silas said. "Kelly still owes me the second half of my payment. Feels only fair someone pays it." Toji's eyes moved to Kelly, cold now in a way Iris had never seen from him before. 3 years in this house, and she'd only ever seen him gentle.
Careful. This version of him was different. Quieter. Sharper. "Get your things," Toji told Kelly.
"You have 10 minutes. "Toji, please just let me explain."
10 minutes, he repeated.
"Or I have someone else pack them for you, and you don't get to choose what comes with you." Kelly's eyes welled up, but nobody moved to comfort her.
Not Toji.
Not Grandmother Soon-Hee. Not even Silas, who just stood there checking something on his phone like this whole scene was already old news to him. Kelly turned and walked toward the stairs, heels clicking slower now, less certain than before. In the kitchen, Iris exhaled again, longer this time. "Guess you're not getting fired today after all," Desmond said, nudging her arm. "Guess not," Iris said. But her stomach still felt tight, unsettled, like the danger hadn't passed. Like it had only shifted to somewhere she couldn't see yet. She thought about Grandmother Soon-Hee's words in the kitchen.
"You will find out.
Maybe sooner than you think. Maybe Kelly leaving wasn't the end of anything. Maybe it was only the beginning."
Upstairs, a door slammed. Then another.
Kelly's voice, muffled, angry, talking to someone on the phone. Iris couldn't make out the words, but she caught one clear enough to send a chill down her spine. "They don't know about the second plan yet."
Iris froze. The second plan.
Whatever that meant, it didn't sound like something that ended just because Kelly walked out the front door. Iris slipped away from the kitchen doorway and climbed the back staircase, the one only staff used, lined with old family photographs she'd dusted 100 times without really looking at. This time she looked. A younger Grandmother Soon-Hee stood in one photo beside a man in a military uniform. Another showed a boy who had to be Toji, maybe 6 years old, missing his front teeth, laughing at something outside the frame. She reached her small room and pulled her one suitcase from under the bed, just like Grandmother Soon-Hee told her to. Her hands were still shaking. She sat on the edge of the mattress, staring at the closed suitcase like it might explain what was happening. A soft knock came at her door. "It's me," Grandmother Soon-Hee's voice said from the hallway. Iris opened the door. The old woman stepped inside slowly, closing it behind her with a click. "You are not in trouble," Grandmother Soon-Hee said, before Iris could even ask. "I need you to understand that. What you did today, it was not planned. But it told me something important." "Told you what, ma'am?" "That you would put yourself between danger and someone you care for, without stopping to think about the cost." The old woman lowered herself onto the small chair by the window, her voice quiet but steady. "That is rare. Rarer than you know. Kelly was never who she said she was," Grandmother Soon-Hee continued. "I knew this for weeks. Maybe longer. But knowing and proving, those are different things. Today, without meaning to, she showed her hand too early." "Because of me," Iris said quietly. "Because I hit her." "Because she could not control her own temper," Grandmother Soon-Hee corrected. "That is her failure, not yours." "But still." "Yes. Your reaction moved things faster than I expected." Iris looked down at her hands. "What happens now?" The old woman's eyes drifted toward the window, toward the long driveway where Silas's car still sat, engine off, waiting. "Now," she said, "we find out how deep this goes. Kelly did not act alone. People like her never do. Someone sent her here. Someone patient enough to wait months for the right moment." A chill moved through Iris's chest. "Are you saying someone wanted her to slap you? On purpose?" Grandmother Soon-Hee didn't answer right away. Her silence said more than words could have. "Pack your bag," she said instead, standing slowly, one hand pressed against the wall for balance. "Not because you are leaving. Because I do not yet know who else might be watching this house, and I would rather you be ready than sorry." She reached the door, then paused, glancing back. "You asked earlier what you would find out," she said. "I will tell you this much. This family has more enemies than friends. Today, you made yourself one enemy. But you may have also made yourself something else. Something more valuable than a job." "What's that, ma'am?" The old woman's mouth curved, small and tired but real. "Someone worth trusting." She left the room without another word, her footsteps fading down the hallway. Iris sat alone for a long moment, the suitcase still unopened beside her, her palm still faintly stinging where it had struck Kelly's cheek. Downstairs, she could hear Kelly's raised voice again, then a car door slamming outside, then tires crunching against gravel as the black car pulled away from the house. But something told Iris this wasn't over. Not even close. Whatever Grandmother Soon-Hee knew, whatever Silas had uncovered, whatever Kelly had whispered into her phone about a second plan, it was all just getting started. And for reasons Iris couldn't fully explain, she had a feeling her life in this house would never look the same again. You already know it's about to twist hard. Drop a comment on what you think the second plan is. Let's get this one trending before what happens next. The second plan had a name, and it wasn't Kelly's. Silas spread a folder across the dining table like he was dealing cards. Bank transfers. Screenshots. A contract with a signature at the bottom that made Toji's jaw go tight the second he saw it. "Recognize that name?" Silas asked. Toji stared at the page. "Warwick Voss. Runs a shipping operation 2 counties over," Silas said. "Been trying to push into your territory for 2 years. Guess he got tired of asking nicely." Grandmother Soon-Hee stood behind Toji's chair, reading over his shoulder. Her face didn't change, but her hand tightened slightly on the back of the chair. "He paid Kelly to get close to you," Silas continued. "Not just for information. For access. Bank codes, shipment schedules, maybe even the security system on this property. She's been feeding him pieces for months." "Why slap Grandmother then?" Toji asked. He hesitated, thinking it through out loud. "That doesn't help her. That draws attention. If she wanted to stay hidden, Why do something that gets her thrown out of the house?
Silas shrugged. Maybe she panicked.
Maybe Voss told her to speed things up because he thinks you're getting suspicious. Maybe she just has a temper and it finally slipped out at the worst possible time. Grandmother Soon-Hee finally spoke. Or maybe it was never about hiding at all.
Both men looked at her. Think, she said.
If Kelly wanted to steal quietly, she would still be here, smiling, pretending. Instead she did something loud. Something that would make everyone look at her.
At the drama.
At the maid who slapped her back. Her eyes narrowed. Maybe that is exactly what Voss wanted. A distraction, so nobody notices what else is happening today.
The room went still.
Toji stood up so fast his chair scraped against the floor. What else is happening today? Nobody answered right away, because nobody knew yet. Down the hallway, Iris sat on the edge of her bed with an envelope in her hands. She'd been avoiding it for 2 weeks, carrying it around in her purse like it might disappear if she just waited long enough. But today, with everything already turned upside down, she figured she couldn't feel much worse.
She opened it.
The letter was from Bowling Green Regional Hospital.
Her mother's name.
Numbers Iris had to read twice before they made sense. A balance that made her stomach twist harder than watching Kelly's hand crack across an old woman's cheek. Her mother hadn't told her how bad it had gotten.
Of course she hadn't.
Her mother never told her anything until it was already a crisis, always trying to protect Iris from worry. Iris pressed her palm against her eyes.
Maybe she should call.
Probably she should call right now.
But still, she didn't move.
She just sat there, letter in her lap, listening to the sound of her own heartbeat.
A knock came at her door.
Softer than Grandmother Soon-Hee's had been earlier.
It was Desmond. You all right?
You've been up here a while. Iris folded the letter and slid it under her pillow, quick, instinctive.
I'm fine.
Desmond's eyes flicked to the edge of paper still peeking out. He didn't say anything about it. He just leaned against the doorframe. Whole house is losing its mind downstairs. Silas found something big. Something about Kelly working for Warwick Voss. Iris's head snapped up.
The shipping guy?
The one who tried to buy the old Hensley warehouse last year.
That's him.
Toji turned him down flat, Iris said, remembering.
Voss wasn't happy about it.
I remember him showing up here once, real polite on the surface, but there was something about the way he looked around the house. Like he was counting things. Desmond raised an eyebrow. You never told anyone that? Wasn't my place, Iris said. I'm the maid, Desmond. Nobody wants my opinion on a business meeting. Might want it now, he said. Iris found Toji in the study a few minutes later, alone, staring at a map spread across his desk. Little red pins marked certain buildings around Ashland and the surrounding counties. You wanted to see me? She asked from the doorway. He looked up, surprised, like he'd forgotten she existed for a moment.
Iris. Come in.
Desmond said you might know something about Warwick Voss, Toji said. About him visiting the house.
Once, Iris said. About 4 months ago. Before Kelly moved in, actually. He came for a meeting, real short one. I brought in coffee. He barely looked at me, which most people don't, but he looked at everything else. The cameras by the door. The layout of the hallway. Even asked me, casual-like, where the family kept it safe. Toji's expression darkened. He asked you that? I didn't answer, Iris said quickly. I just said I didn't handle that part of the house. But maybe, probably. He was already planning something, even back then. Toji rubbed a hand over his face. 4 months. That's around when he started talking to Kelly, according to Silas's records. You think she was already working for him before she started dating you? Iris asked. I think, Toji said slowly, that I need to go back and look at exactly how Kelly and I met. Because right now, none of it feels like it happened by accident. Can I ask you something? Iris said, surprising herself with the boldness of it. Toji nodded. Why didn't you fire me? Earlier. When Kelly wanted you to. He hesitated, considering the question longer than she expected. Because in 3 years,
You've never given me a reason not to trust you. Kelly gave me plenty of reasons in one afternoon. He paused. Maybe that should have told me something sooner. About both of you. Toji tapped one of the red pins on the map, his mind clearly somewhere else now. Silas found something odd in Kelly's messages. A name mentioned twice, always in code. Never spelled out fully. Just initials. E.T. Mean anything to you? Iris asked. Not yet. He sighed, dragging a hand down his face. But my grandmother reacted strange when I told her. Real strange. Like she recognized it and wished she didn't. Maybe you should ask her directly. I have. Twice. Toji shook his head. She keeps saying it's old business. Settled business. But her face doesn't match her words. Families keep secrets to protect each other, Iris offered carefully. Maybe she's hiding it because she's scared of what happens once it's out. Toji looked at her for a long moment, like he was seeing something new. You're probably right. A small, tired smile. You always this good at reading people, or is it just a bad day for everybody else? Bit of both, probably, Iris said. Down in the kitchen, Grandmother Soon-Hee was on the phone, speaking low and fast in Korean, the kind of tone that made Iris, passing by with a tray of dishes, slow her steps without meaning to. When the old woman finally hung up, her face looked different. Older somehow. Heavier. Ma'am? Iris asked carefully. Everything all right? That was an old friend. Someone who owes me a favor from a long time ago. He confirmed something I hoped was not true. What's that? Warwick Voss is not working alone, she said. He has a partner. Someone with connections much closer to this family than a shipping businessman from 2 counties away. Iris set the tray down slowly. Ma'am, can I ask you something else? Has this happened before? Someone getting close, trying to take something from the inside. Grandmother Soon-Hee was quiet for a long moment. Once. Many years ago. Before you were even born. My husband trusted a business partner named Elias Thorne like a brother. Thorne helped build half of what this family has. And then, one winter, he tried to take all of it for himself. Her hands folded tighter in her lap. We survived. But it cost us people we loved. What happened to him? Thorne. He disappeared. What matters is this. Betrayal in this family does not usually come from strangers. It comes from someone who was close enough to know where to aim. She left the kitchen without another word. Iris stood alone for a moment, turning the name over in her head. Elias Thorne. E.T. Her stomach dropped. She hurried down the hallway and found Toji still in the study. The initials, Iris said, words rushing out fast. E.T. in Kelly's messages. Toji looked up. What about them? Your grandmother just told me a story. About a man named Elias Thorne. Someone who used to be close to your family years ago, before he tried to take everything for himself. She said he disappeared. Nobody knows what happened to him. Toji went very still. She never told me that name. Not once, in my whole life. Maybe she was protecting you, Iris said. Or maybe she was protecting herself from having to say it out loud. Toji stood pacing now, one hand pressed against his jaw. If Thorne is alive, and if he's the one working with Voss, that changes everything. That's someone who already knows this house. Knows exactly where the weak points are, because he helped build them. I don't know, he admitted. He hesitated. But I intend to find out. Tonight, if I have to. He reached for his phone, already dialing Silas, his voice dropping into the same low, controlled tone Iris had heard him use with Kelly earlier that day. Iris slipped out of the study, her own mind racing now with questions that had nothing to do with hospital bills or unknown callers. Somehow, without meaning to, she had just handed Toji the first real thread that might unravel the whole thing. That evening, after the house had gone mostly quiet, Iris found herself back in her room, the hospital letter still tucked beneath her pillow, her mind spinning with everything that happened. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. Iris Fallon? A man's voice. Calm.
careful. Who is this?
Someone who knows about your mother's hospital bill, the voice said. And someone who can make it disappear.
Completely.
All you'd have to do is answer a few questions about the Kugisaki house. Iris's blood went cold.
Who are you?
She demanded, voice shaking. Think about it, the voice said, ignoring her question entirely. You don't owe that family your whole life, Iris. You owe your mother hers.
The call ended.
Her door opened without a knock. Desmond again, with 2 mugs of tea balanced carefully in his hands. Thought you could use this, he said, then stopped when he saw her face.
What happened?
Someone called me, she said. They knew about my mom.
About her hospital bill.
They said they'd make it disappear if I answered some questions about this house. Desmond set the mugs down slowly. Questions about what exactly?
They didn't get that far.
I hung up. Iris wrapped her arms around herself. But how would a stranger know about a hospital bill from Bowling Green?
I haven't told anyone.
Not even Grandmother Soon-Hee.
You need to tell Toji. Or the old woman. Tonight. And say what? They'll think I'm involved somehow.
That I'm the next Kelly. Nobody's gonna think that, Desmond said, though his voice wasn't quite as certain as his words. Whoever called you, they're not guessing about your mother. That means they've been watching you specifically.
Not just the house. You.
Downstairs, faintly, they heard Toji's voice again, along with Silas's, and beneath both of them, the low, steady sound of Grandmother Soon-Hee speaking in Korean once more. Whoever was behind that phone call, they'd made one thing clear without meaning to. This wasn't only about Kelly or Voss, or even the Kugisaki fortune. It was about her too now. About her mother. About a debt Iris never asked for and couldn't afford to lose. She thought about calling her mother. Telling her everything. But what would that even sound like? Said out loud. A stranger threatened me over your hospital bill, and I think it's connected to a man who vanished before I was born. Her mother would only worry more, and worry was the last thing a woman recovering in a hospital bed needed tonight. So Iris said nothing. She turned off her lamp, pulled the blanket up to her chin, and lay in the dark listening to the old house creak around her, wondering which of its sounds were normal and which ones might not be. Sleep, when it finally came, brought no comfort at all. Y'all, I did not expect to be typing this scene at midnight with my heart racing like this. Comment below who you think called Iris, because I promise the answer is not who you're expecting. Silas wasn't who he said he was. Iris figured it out at breakfast, of all places, standing by the coffee pot with a mug halfway to her lips. Silas walked past her, talking on his phone, laughing at something the person on the other end said. Yeah, I hear you.
Think about it.
All you'd have to do is answer a few questions. The mug slipped in Iris's hand. She caught it before it hit the floor, but coffee sloshed over the rim, burning hot across her fingers. She barely noticed. That voice. Those exact words. She'd heard them last night, through her phone in the dark, from a stranger who knew about her mother. Silas ended his call and noticed her staring. You okay? Fine, Iris said, too fast. Just clumsy this morning. She walked away before her face could give anything else away, heart pounding so loud she was sure the whole kitchen could hear it. Maybe she was wrong. Probably lots of people said things like that. But still. The tone. The pacing. The exact way he'd said think about it, like he was used to people hesitating and had a script ready for it. She found Desmond in the pantry 20 minutes later and pulled him aside, voice low. It's Silas, she whispered. The call last night. I think it was Silas. Desmond's eyebrows shot up. You sure? No, Iris admitted. Not completely. But I heard him on the phone just now, and it was the same voice. The same exact words. That man's supposed to be helping Toji, Desmond said. Why would he be threatening you at the same time? Grandmother Soon-Hee warned me. She said be careful who I trust. Especially people who seem harmless. Silas ain't exactly harmless, Desmond pointed out. Man walked in off the street with a folder full of secrets. Which is exactly why it makes sense, Iris said, thoughts moving faster now. What if the folder wasn't the whole truth? What if it was just enough to get himself inside this house? Desmond was quiet a moment. You think he's working both sides? I think somebody has to be, Iris said. Kelly wasn't smart enough to plan all this alone. She was a piece on the board. Maybe Silas is another piece. Before Desmond could respond, Iris's phone buzzed.
A text this time.
From a number she didn't recognize.
It was Kelly.
I know you probably hate me right now. You have every right to. But I need to tell you something, and I don't have much time. Please just read this.
Another text followed.
Voss isn't just after Toji's business. He's after all of it, and he's using people I care about to make me help him. I didn't slap that old woman because I wanted to. He told me to create a distraction, and he has something on me I can't let get out. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm asking you to warn Toji that Silas isn't who he says he is.
Please. Before it's too late.
She's saying the same thing you just said, Desmond murmured.
About Silas.
Maybe that's proof, Iris said. Or maybe it's exactly what someone wants us to think. Only one way to find out, Desmond said. They found Toji in the study again, dark circles under his eyes, Grandmother Soon-Hee across from him with untouched tea in front of her. We need to talk, Iris said, closing the door.
About Silas.
Iris told him everything.
The call last night. The voice she recognized.
Kelly's texts, still glowing on her screen. Grandmother Soon-Hee didn't look surprised. I suspected something was wrong with him. His folder came together too quickly.
Too neatly.
A man does not usually gather 3 months of evidence and hand it over for free out of the goodness of his heart. He asked for money, Toji said slowly. Said Kelly owed him the second half of a payment. Maybe that part was true, Grandmother Soon-Hee said. Maybe this whole performance was simply a faster way to get what Voss really wanted. Access, Toji said grimly. He's seen the security setup, the family's routines, probably more of the financial records than I realized I showed him. He stood suddenly, jaw tight, already moving toward the door. Toji, Grandmother Soon-Hee said sharply.
Careful.
If he suspects we know, he may not wait around for us to confront him properly. They reached the study Silas had been using and found the door slightly open. Inside, Silas stood at the safe built into the far wall, fingers moving over the dial, back to the door, unaware he had company. Toji's voice cut through the room. Find what you're looking for?
Silas froze.
Slowly he turned around. Whatever calm mask he'd worn since walking through the front door was gone, replaced by something colder.
Toji, Silas said. He hesitated, recalculating.
This isn't what it looks like. It looks like you're trying to open my family's safe. Fine, Silas said, straightening his jacket.
You want the truth?
The folder was real.
Every piece of it.
I just left out the parts that would have made you suspicious of me instead of Kelly. And the phone call to Iris? Desmond asked, stepping forward. That you too. Business is business, Silas said. Everybody's got a weak spot. Yours happened to be easy to find. You used my mother. Enough, Toji said, voice low and dangerous. You're going to tell us everything. Right now. You really want the whole story? Fine. But you're not going to like where it starts. Silas leaned back against the desk. Elias Thorne is my father. The room went silent in a way Iris had never heard silence before. Grandmother Soon-Hee's knuckles went white around her cane. You knew, Toji said, turning to look at her. I suspected, she said again, that same careful word from days earlier. The resemblance. Something about the way he carried himself the first afternoon he walked through my door. My father spent 20 years telling me stories about this family, Silas said, almost bitter now. About how he built half of what you have, and how the Kugisaki family thanked him by pushing him out the second he asked for what he was owed. That's not what happened, Grandmother Soon-Hee said, sharper than Iris had ever heard her. Your father tried to steal control of this family's shipping routes while my husband was recovering from surgery. He forged documents. He nearly bankrupted us. We did not push him out. We survived what he tried to do to us. Stories change depending on who tells them, she added. Especially when the person telling them needs their child to hate the family who caught them. My father spent years planning how to come back, Silas continued, quieter now. When Voss reached out looking for someone with connections inside your world, my father saw his chance. Sent me instead. Said I'd be less recognizable.
And Kelly? Iris asked.
Voss found her separately. In debt to the wrong people. He offered to clear it if she got close to Toji. As far as I know, she still doesn't know about my father's history with this family. Iris thought of Kelly's texts still on her phone. She's scared. She reached out to me this morning. Said the slap was supposed to be a distraction. Silas nodded, unsurprised. Sounds about right. Voss likes layers. Kelly creates chaos up front. I gather information from the inside. My father waits until everyone's looking the wrong direction, and then he makes his real move. Which is what? Toji demanded. The shipping contracts your grandfather signed 30 years ago, Silas said. He's convinced there's a loophole never properly voided. If he can get his hands on the original documents in that safe, he thinks he can prove he's still owed a share of everything this family built since. There is no loophole, Grandmother Soon-Hee said. I made certain of that personally, the same year he disappeared. He doesn't believe that. Once he's decided what's true, facts don't change his mind anymore. So where is he now? Toji asked. Your father. Silas glanced toward the window, but this time it wasn't an escape route he was measuring. It was dread. Closer than you think. He sent me here to make sure the house would be ready for him. Cameras disabled at the right moment. Doors that wouldn't lock when they should. He's not planning to stay hidden much longer. How much longer? Grandmother Soon-Hee asked. Silas looked at his watch, real fear crossing his face for the first time. Tonight, he said. He's coming tonight. The words landed heavy in the room. You're going to help us stop him, Toji said. Not a question. Silas let out a short laugh, humorless. You think I have a choice? He'll kill me himself if he finds out I told you any of this. Don't trust him, Desmond muttered, low enough only Iris could hear. Man's lied for a living the last 2 days. Maybe, Iris murmured back. But he's scared now. Scared people don't usually lie as well. Grandmother Soon-Hee moved slowly to the safe. If Elias believes the documents in here can undo 30 years of settled business, then we let him believe it a little longer. Long enough to bring him where we want him. You want to use the safe as bait, Toji said. I want to control where and how this ends. He has waited 20 years for this house. Tonight, he will finally walk into it. But not on his terms. On ours. What do you need from us? Iris asked. Grandmother Soon-Hee's eyes moved over each of them slowly, and finally landed on Iris, standing near the door with her phone still clutched in her hand, Kelly's unanswered texts glowing faintly on the screen. Everyone in this room has a part to play tonight, she said. Including the girl who is not currently standing here. Kelly, Iris said. If she truly wants to help, tonight is when we find out if that is the truth, or one more lie stacked on top of all the others. Toji crossed to the window, staring at the driveway where the sun was already beginning to dip, shadows stretching longer with every passing minute. Then we don't have much time to get ready, he said. Silas straightened slowly, the fight draining out of him. No, he agreed quietly. You really don't. Outside, the wind picked up, rustling through the trees lining the estate, and somewhere beyond the gate, a car engine that none of them could hear yet had already begun making its way toward the house. Iris looked down at her phone one more time before slipping it into her pocket. Kelly's message still waited, unanswered. Please. Before it's too late. Maybe it already was too late for some things. But still, standing in that study with the sun sinking lower outside, Iris understood one thing clearly for the first time since the slap that started all of this. Whatever happened tonight, none of them would be walking away from it the same people they were this morning. If Silas flips on his own father tonight, I might actually scream. Let me know in the comments who you trust less right now, Silas or Kelly, because I genuinely can't decide. Batch 4 is where it all comes together. Elias Thorne walked through the front gate at exactly 9 o'clock, just like Silas said he would. Iris watched from the upstairs window, curtain pulled back just enough to see the driveway below. An older man, silver-haired, walking with the kind of calm confidence that made her stomach twist. He didn't look like a stranger sneaking into a house. He looked like a man coming home. The hours before had felt longer than the whole rest of the week combined. Grandmother Soon-Hee had spent the afternoon on the phone again, low Korean murmurs drifting from behind the study door. Toji had walked the perimeter of the property twice himself, checking every window latch, jaw tight the entire time. Even Desmond had gone quiet, moving through his chores with none of his usual easy humor. Iris had spent the last hour simply sitting with her mother's hospital letter in her lap, no longer dreading it the way she had days earlier, just holding it, a small steady weight to keep her hands from shaking while she waited for whatever was coming. Now it was here. Downstairs, everything was arranged exactly the way Grandmother Soon-Hee wanted it. Silas stood near the study door, tense, playing his part as instructed. Toji waited by the fireplace, hands folded, face unreadable. Desmond stood near the kitchen entrance, ready to move if needed. And Grandmother Soon-Hee sat in her usual chair by the window, cane resting against her knee, watching the driveway with the patience of someone who had waited 30 years for this exact moment. Iris crept partway down the back staircase, close enough to hear, careful to stay out of sight. Her heart thudded against her chest, loud enough she was sure it could be heard through the walls. The front door opened. Footsteps echoed through the hall. Soon-Hee, Elias Thorne said, stepping into the room like he'd never left it. "You've barely aged a day." "You've aged plenty," she replied evenly. "Sit down, Elias. We have a lot to discuss." He smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. "I'm not here to sit and chat. I'm here for what's mine." "There is nothing here that belongs to you," Toji said, stepping forward. "Not anymore. Not ever, really." Elias's gaze shifted to him, sizing him up. "You must be the grandson." "Toji, is it?" "You have your grandfather's eyes. Shame you don't have his patience." "Nobody erased you," Grandmother Soon-Hee said. "You erased yourself the moment you forged those documents." "Allegedly forged," Elias corrected smoothly. "Nothing was ever proven in court. Quiet settlements. Quiet threats. Easier than a trial where the truth might actually come out." "The truth," Grandmother Soon-Hee said, standing slowly, cane steady beneath her hand, "is that you tried to take a family's life work while my husband was recovering from surgery. That is not a story that needed a courtroom, Elias. Everyone who mattered already knew it." Silas shifted near the doorway, and Elias's eyes flicked toward him, something unreadable passing between father and son. "You did well," Elias said to him. "Getting inside. Gathering what we needed." Silas didn't answer right away. He hesitated, jaw tight. "I got inside," he finally said. "But I didn't get what you wanted, Dad. Because it was never there. Because there's no loophole. Because you've spent 20 years chasing something that doesn't exist, and you dragged me into it without ever asking if I even wanted to be part of it." "Everything I did for us," Elias said. "For your future." "You did it for yourself," Silas said, voice cracking slightly. "You just needed someone to blame besides the mirror." Grandmother Soon-Hee reached into the pocket of her cardigan and withdrew a folded envelope, worn soft at the edges with age. She held it out, not to Elias, but to Toji. "These are the original contracts," she said. "Every signature. Every clause. I have kept them safe for 30 years, waiting for the day someone would come asking about a loophole that was never real." Toji opened the envelope carefully, scanning the pages, then handed them to Elias without a word. Elias's hands shook slightly as he read, his eyes moving faster and faster, searching for something that clearly wasn't there. "This isn't right," he muttered. "There has to be something. Anything." "There isn't," Grandmother Soon-Hee said, not unkindly, but firm. "There never was. You built a life around a lie you told yourself, Elias, and it cost you your family, your reputation, and now, tonight, whatever was left of your son's patience. You believe them over your own father." Elias asked Silas. "I believe the paperwork," Silas said quietly. "Which is more than I can say for the last 20 years of stories." Elias's shoulders sagged for just a moment, before he straightened himself again, grasping for whatever control still remained. You think this is over? Voss won't let this go quietly. There is no we anymore, Dad, Silas said. There hasn't been for longer than you're willing to admit. Toji stepped closer, arms crossed. You should have quit while you still had something left to lose, Elias. Instead you spent it all chasing a version of the past that never actually existed. Careful, Elias said. You speak like a man who has never lost anything real. I lost a grandfather I barely got to know, Toji said evenly, partly because of what you did to this family 30 years ago. Don't lecture me about loss. Elias had no answer for that. He looked, for the first time since walking through the door, genuinely old. A car pulled into the driveway outside, headlights sweeping briefly across the front windows. A moment later, the front door opened again, and Kelly stepped inside hesitant, eyes darting nervously around the room until they landed on Iris standing near the stairs. I didn't know if I should come, Kelly said softly. But I couldn't sit at home wondering if I'd made things worse by staying silent. I almost turned the car around twice. Grandmother Soon-Hee studied her for a long moment. Courage arriving late is still courage, child. Come in. You're just in time, Grandmother Soon-Hee said, gesturing toward Elias. Warwick Voss's partner has just learned there is no fortune waiting for him here. Perhaps you'd like to share what Voss actually promised you, in exchange for helping him. Kelly's hands twisted together nervously. He said he'd clear my debt. All of it. Said all I had to do was get close to Toji, stay long enough to learn the house, and create a distraction when he needed one. Her voice wavered. I'm not proud of any of it. But I was drowning, and he offered me a way out. You hurt an 81-year-old woman, Toji said, though his voice had lost most of its earlier edge. I know, Kelly said, eyes filling with tears. And I will regret that for a long time. I'm not asking anyone here to forgive me tonight. I just needed you to know the truth. Fear makes people do things they would not otherwise do, Grandmother Soon-Hee said finally. That does not erase what was done. But it does explain it. There is a difference, and tonight, that difference matters. Elias, watching the room slip further from his control, straightened his jacket with what little dignity he had left. Voss won't be pleased when he hears his plan fell apart. Voss can hear it from the county sheriff, Toji said. Desmond already called him 20 minutes ago. Should be here any minute now. Elias's face went pale. You set this up, he said slowly, understanding dawning too late. I told you, Grandmother Soon-Hee said, walking toward the window. I have been prepared for something like this for 30 years. Red and blue lights swept across the driveway minutes later, and the room held its breath as heavy footsteps approached the front door. What followed was quiet, orderly, nothing like the chaos Iris had feared all evening. No shouting. No struggle. Just tired men explaining themselves to officers who had clearly heard plenty of complicated stories before. Elias was led out first, silent now, all his earlier confidence gone. Silas followed more slowly, pausing beside Toji at the door. For what it's worth, Silas said quietly, the folder was real. Everything I told you about Voss and Kelly, that part was true. I just should have told you the rest of it sooner. Maybe, Toji said. Or maybe you should have never taken the job in the first place. Silas didn't argue. He nodded once, and followed the officer outside into the cool Kentucky night. Kelly lingered a moment longer. Will they arrest me too? That depends, the old woman said, on how honestly you cooperate with what comes next. Kelly nodded, wiping her eyes. Before she left, she turned to Iris one last time. Thank you. For reading my messages. For not just deleting them. I almost did, Iris admitted. I'm glad you didn't, Kelly said, and then she was gone too. The house grew quiet again, the kind of quiet that comes after a storm finally passes. Toji stayed by the front door a moment longer than the others, staring out at the empty driveway. Iris came to stand beside him. Feels strange, Toji finally said. Waiting 30 years for something, and then it's over in under an hour. Maybe the waiting was the hard part, Iris offered. Maybe tonight was just the easy part nobody expected. You held this whole house together today.
Not just me.
Not just my grandmother. All of it. I just answered a text, Iris said.
You did a lot more than that, Toji said.
Iris sank onto the bottom stair, suddenly exhausted. Desmond dropped down beside her.
Well, he said.
That was a day.
That was a week stuffed into a day, Iris said.
Grandmother Soon-Hee approached slowly, her earlier sharpness softened now. She held out a folded piece of paper toward Iris. Iris unfolded it.
A receipt.
A payment confirmation, from Bowling Green Regional Hospital, marked paid in full. Ma'am, I can't accept this, Iris said, pressing a hand over her mouth, tears rising unexpectedly. You already accepted far more than that when you stood between me and a woman half your size and twice as cruel, Grandmother Soon-Hee said. Consider it settled business.
The good kind for once.
Say nothing, the old woman said, patting her shoulder once. Some things do not need thanking. They only need remembering. Morning came soft and quiet over the estate. Desmond wandered into the kitchen, stretching. Sheriff called this morning. Voss got picked up outside Lexington last night. Kelly's cooperating fully.
And Silas? Iris asked.
Cutting a deal too. Testifying against his own father. Grandmother Soon-Hee called Iris into the sitting room. I have been thinking, she said, about what you said to me that first day. That you did not decide to slap Kelly. That your hand simply moved. I remember, Iris said. I believe you. But some things move faster than thought because the heart has already decided long before the mind catches up. You did not choose loyalty that day. You simply revealed loyalty that was already there waiting. Iris nodded, throat tight. What happens now, ma'am? With the business. Now, we do what this family has always done, even when it was hardest.
We keep going. Carefully.
Honestly, when we can manage it. And we remember who stood beside us when it mattered most. Iris carried her coffee back toward the kitchen, past the hallway photographs, pausing this time to look. Ordinary people, choosing each other, again and again, long after anyone else would have given up on them entirely, without asking for anything back. If you made it all the way to the end, seriously, thank you for writing this one out with me. Dramas like this take everything I've got, and knowing y'all are watching makes every single word worth it. Drop a comment telling me your favorite twist, subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you in the next story.